all comes down to truth. Humans are my biggest drug. I find this world to be dysfunctional on so many levels. Everyone is spiritual. Oh my God. Our essence as humans is the same. A sense of separateness and interconnectedness. A culture becomes a problem when it says and embark on this big journey of traveling the world. He said, I don't have much money, but I look forward to tomorrow. With the increase of technology, we are losing our wisdom, we are becoming dumber. What about the instruction manual of ourselves? I don't care about your titles. What I care about is what's their motivation, what's their drive, what's their intention. And no one can save us apart from ourselves. How therapists make sure that they do no harm. My name is Melikian. I'm from Armenia. I'm a humanistic, relational and integrative psychotherapist. My life mission is advocating for children to create emotionally healthier society. Most parents don't really understand and accept their children unconditionally. In reality, children are slaves of their parents and it's legal. Can you believe that? I've been meaning to do YouTube channel for a long time and procrastinating because I was so terrified of starting a channel, exposing myself and my ideas. Although I've been doing this for some time, I have my blog, my website where I've been writing articles since 2016 with some breaks. And recently I published a long essay on anger. So someone said to me recently, oh, you could do podcast. And I was like, yeah, I could. So I was preparing and recording myself, but I'm tempted to do YouTube because I feel like it's going to give the full picture of who I am. Although it's much more work because I have to show my face, I have to remember what I'm saying, and the whole video setting and editing. So it's harder, but let's try and see if this format works. So why I want to do this channel? All comes down to truth. I'm crazy about truth and authenticity and integrity. So it's going to be everything around that. But the topics I want to discuss here are around humanity, philosophy, ethics and morality, justice, psychotherapy, which is my area, emotional intelligence, mental health, linguistics, culture, travels, advocating for children, and beyond that. The word philosophy means philo, love, and sophia, wisdom. So it means love of wisdom. So that's my biggest love apart from love for humans. This podcast is a form of public diary where I want to share my observations, my indignation, discontent, but also joy with the current reality. So I'm sharing here my truth today, but it might not be your truth. And all the opinions presented here constantly change and evolve. They will always have some level of bias, limitations, ignorance. So please don't believe everything I say here. Use your own judgment, your own intuition and critical thinking, because in the end, you're the biggest authority on yourself. My name is Melikian. I'm from Armenia. It's a small country in the West Asia, more accurately in the Eurasian region of Caucasus Mountains. So I am legitimately Caucasian. But I noticed that the word Caucasian is used to describe white people. And I don't get why. It doesn't make sense to me. Because if someone says they are Caucasian, I would assume they are from Caucasus Mountains. Anyway, when I was 12, my parents moved to Poland, Europe. And then as an adult, I moved to London. So naturally, I speak 3 languages, English being my 3rd language. I speak a bit of Russian, although it's rusty because I don't use it. And currently learning Chinese. Good luck. So if you ask me, I'm Asian and fully Armenian by blood, but I cannot identify with one culture and language anymore. It would feel incomplete. That's why I consider myself cosmopolitan citizen of the world. I belong everywhere and nowhere, which is a blessing and a curse. I feel like I'm reinventing myself every time I change country and learn a new language. As I said at the beginning, I'm a truth seeker, meaning I pursue and inquire truths. Even though I know I probably will never get to the complete truth, but it doesn't stop me from searching. I have a low tolerance for bullshit, especially low quality bullshit. I like to expose any nonsense, which often gets me into trouble. When I look at humans, I'm so astonished how capable, creative, caring they are. I mean, look at our civilizations. We've created pyramids, internet, fireworks, electricity, comedy, amazing stuff. At the same time, I think to myself, oh my God, these bloody Homo sapiens are complete idiots, hurting each other, playing wars, destroying our planet. I'm so disappointed to see these self-destructive, greedy and dumb beings. It really troubles me. But still, I desperately need humans to thrive mentally and psychologically, just like I need food to survive, food and water to survive. So desperately, to say desperately is not an exaggeration. I say that humans are my biggest drug. I heard someone say, I love humanity, but I hate people. As one of my favorite comedians, George Carlin, said, I love people as I meet them one by one. I see the whole universe in their eyes. But as soon as they begin to group, they begin to change. They sacrifice the beauty of the individual for the sake of the group. So humans are my hope and my focus. And I'm fascinated to discover all the intricacies of their complex psyche. Also, I cannot deny one of them. What drives me in life, my biggest values are connection, freedom, authenticity or integrity, justice and courage. And I'm obsessed with ideas because I think humans are mortal, but ideas are immortal and they can change the world. I cannot live on an autopilot. Every day, every minute of the day needs to have a purpose and meaning. I hate wasting time. I consider myself as a rebel, nonconformist, an outsider questioning reality, rules, norms, the status quo, including myself. I find this world to be dysfunctional on so many levels, whether that's the food we produce and eat, or the quality of our relationships with ourselves and others. I'm not well adjusted to this world and I'm not sure, I don't think I want to be. I don't think it would be a good sign if I was. I cannot fit into any conventional groups or ideas or mindset. I find that what is often conventional mainstream is made for the masses, the mindless crowd. I call it low quality McDonald's lifestyle / content to feed the crowd easily. But there isn't much nutrition, essence, substance, truth. For me, it's superficial, artificial, shitty, crappy. But why the crowd takes it so easily and feels satisfied? Because the crowd lacks critical thinking for themselves. So it's easy for them to follow some kind of guru or leader or government, religion, some authority, ideologies, or spirituality, this recent fancy word, especially in the West. Everyone is spiritual. Oh my God. Namaste. Please. No. Leave me alone. But it makes sense to me because it's much easier and comfortable and convenient to simply consume rather than... It's like with cooking. If you want to make homemade food, you need to plan, go and do shopping, cook it, focus, and cook it from scratch, ideally, and then clean it up. But it would be much easier to actually order food, takeaway, right? And just consume it. It takes much more energy to choose, select, and be discerning. But I often find that what is called alternative is often closer to the truth and maybe more authentic, more real and soulful. I could say I'm more alternative, but even funny, that word alternative often is perceived as something unscientific or weird. So this world makes me lonely, like on the existential, emotional, intellectual level. I find it hard to meet like-minded people in real life. Of course, luckily I can meet them online through YouTube, books. I guess that's it. So I go through existential angst regularly, and I often feel like I'm not from this planet. I often question myself. Although I'm very lucky to have two very close people to me that completely understand me, I think if I didn't have that, I would go completely nuts. Because when I look around, it's very hard for me to relate and connect with people. As I said, most people are quite superficial and there is some kind of blockage and wall to really get to them. I mean, of course, I can connect with my clients as a therapist, but my clients are not my friends. It's a professional work. As I said earlier, humans are my hope and my focus. I'm fascinated to discover all the intricacies of their psyche. And I'm also one of them, I cannot deny it. So therefore, after 7 years of living in London, I've decided to quit my comfortable life there and embark on this big journey of traveling the world. There were a few reasons of wanting to do this. One of the reasons was to explore other countries and discover differences between the collectivist and individualist cultures. So let's discuss that. So I mentioned individualist and collectivist cultures, but how do we define culture? What is it? All right, let's look at more definitions. In individualist culture, there is higher emphasis on the person's autonomy, decisions, choices. The downside is that the ties between people are loose because they went too far with this so-called freedom and me thinking. rather than we mindset. Where in collectivist cultures, the key word is harmony inside the groups. The needs of the individual are not important. Therefore, there is more pressure to conform and do what is expected by families, society, government, etc. But with that comes more sense of belonging, safety, support. So this has been my experience. I've been in between most of my life because Armenia is a very collectivist culture and that's what I had at home. UK is highly individualist, where Poland is kind of in the middle because it's Eastern Europe. Actually, most countries in the world, apart from Europe, North America, New Zealand, Australia, are collectivist. No wonder, because individualism is correlated with economic development. To quote Hofstede studies again, USA achieved the highest score on the individualist side, where China is on the other end of the collectivist side. So I've become restless. I've realized I spent too much time in Europe, and it's been fun, but I wanted to get out of it. I think our planet is influenced and dominated too much by the Western, especially the US and Anglo-Saxon narrative. I find it dull. And it became more clear as I was traveling to, let's say, Asia and Africa, how everyone wants to be like people from US or people from UK, including the skin. They want to have white or even pale skin, or they're influenced by American movies. And I mean, even the language I use here is English, right? So it's quite telling. And by the way, English is, according to Hofstede studies, is the most individualist language in the world. Don't get me wrong, I love many aspects of the Western world, especially the freedom that was so liberating to me as a woman. Well, I say freedom, but when I think about freedom of speech, sure, that's the case in the West, but recently it's becoming more and more tyranny of speech. I also became sick of this whole political correctness when I used to live in London. This reminds me of Polish journalist Kuba Wojewódzki, who summarized the political correctness really well.
Poprawność polityczna jest czymś naskórkowo, czymś, co właściwie ma zmienić nasze poglądy tylko na poziomie języka, a nie na poziomie ich istoty. Więc jest to hipokryzja tak naprawdę. Inna forma cenzury ładnie brzmi.
One of the things about the Western influence that I noticed so much in other countries is this word expat. Oh my God. There are a lot of expat groups, you know, you can join this expat, you can meet this expat. I'm like, what the fuck? What does it mean expat? Like who created this word? So this fancy word expat is used by Westerners, usually white Westerners, to describe them living abroad. But I've never seen it used to describe people from developing countries moving to the West. And seriously, aren't we all immigrants, expats, foreigners when we live abroad? Why Westerners need to make up, you know, these fancy words to feel better about themselves? Anyway, I've had enough of the West and I started to wonder, how is it in the Far East or Africa or South America? How do people function and create societies on these continents? What are their ancient values and philosophies in life? How do they relate to each other and connect? So I started my solo trip from Asia, Japan, and my philosophy of traveling was to follow people rather than places. So I've been trying to talk to as many people as possible, both locals and foreigners, asking them questions and trying to understand them. I mean, think about it. We are all made from the same molecules. One heart, one brain, two legs, 38 billion bacteria, all the same. And we have the same fundamental needs as humans. We want to love and be loved. It's pretty simple. But just because we were randomly born into a specific environment, call it country, era, culture, parents, that defines so massively our destiny, our identity, and who we become. How crazy is that? I mean, seriously, think about it. No, thank you very much. I refuse to be part of it. I need to live according to my own rules and make my conscious decisions. What I'm trying to say is that all cultures are man-made constructs, but our essence as humans is the same. You just need to observe small kids, very young kids, before they were influenced by the society, and you will know they are all the same across all cultures. But in the process of socializations, we learn different strategies to meet our needs, as Marshall Rosenberg would say, the creator of nonviolent communication. And of course, some things get ingrained in us, like the mother tongue, the language and accent we speak, or the food our taste buds are used to. And there is nothing bad with that. It's all beautiful and rich. What I am proposing here is to revisit and review. How aware are we of these influences? And can we differentiate which ones were passed on to us when we just accepted it mindlessly and which ones we chose consciously? No wonder one of the first questions we ask a newly met person is, where are you from? As we hope that knowing their country and ethnicity will give us some clues on how to view them and connect or disconnect. And of course, I have these biases too. Living abroad most of my life, I hear this question all the time. So now, anytime someone asks me where I'm from, I give them the honest truth. I am from my mom's belly. Isn't it where we all come from? I mean, not from my mom's belly, but from your mom's belly. Yeah, anyway, what a stupid question. So because I've got to experience both individualist and collectivist cultures, I've realized one day, why not integrate them? Why we have to live in one dimension only? I mean, isn't that limiting where we have only one type of mindset? So one of my visions and aims is to bring the values of freedom, individualist culture, and connection, collectivist culture, coexisting together. Meaning, as humans, we need a sense of separateness and interconnectedness at the same time. Have you heard of the term we? It's a term coined by neuropsychiatrist Dr. Daniel Siegel. He connected me plus we together as a we, as a sense of interconnectedness that I'm talking about. I love it. I love it. All right, so we have a goal of adding things together to make it richer, healthier, better. Now, another task would be to eliminate from culture any practices that are outdated, unhealthy, and damaging for people. Why we need to do that? Well, a culture becomes a problem when it says you need to do things a certain way, otherwise you're gonna face consequences. Meaning you're gonna be rejected, judged, ostracized, basically punished. So this is where cultures can be a form of religion, offering conditional acceptance. This means that if people truly want to belong, they have to give up their true, authentic self and adapt to the societal norms that might be against to their internal desires. To give you an example, it might be that certain cultures cannot accept that you're dyeing your hair in a workplace, or you're gay, or you don't want to have kids. Or let me give you another example of a harmful cultural belief. I'm surprised, but there are still countries and cultures in the world where hitting children, meaning physical violence, is accepted by the law, is allowed by the law and accepted by the society. Well, I would say that any domestic violence should not be tolerated, especially towards vulnerable kids. So just because something is normal, widely accepted, often by those in power, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's healthy, beneficial for our physical and mental health, and ethically correct. I mean, we don't have to look far. Think about racism, slavery that was normal, limited women's rights only a few decades ago. Of course, ethics and morality are not fixed concepts. They are often contextual. So we cannot make up ready-made rules on every subject. But I suggest examining our norms and to start open public discussions. So I was saying before how much we like to ask each other, where are you from? And I think that's adults' first favorite question. The second favorite question of grown-ups is, what do you do for a living? So this question is supposed to help us to gauge what's the social status, importance or lack of it for this person. As in the book Little Prince, the pilot describes adults. Grown-ups like numbers. When you tell them about a new friend, they never ask questions about what really matters. They never ask, what does his voice sound like? What games does he like the best? Does he collect butterflies? They ask, how old is he? How many brothers does he have? How much does he weigh? How much money does he have? Only then do they think they know him. Yes, dumb humans again. It's so easy to trick and deceive them. Especially if someone is popular or successful, they lose their sound judgment and intuition. Imagine this, if grown-ups hear that you work as a street cleaner, or you're a housewife with, let's say, 3 kids, they immediately judge you as someone non-ambitious and they think your job is insignificant. I mean, these titles don't sound very prestigious, don't they? They most probably would not care what's your story, and they will fail to acknowledge that cleaning streets is one of the most important jobs for our society. And women or men looking after the house and raising kids, they don't get paid for that. But if they hear that you're a lawyer or a doctor or CEO, ooh, they start to respect you and they even admire you and they think to themselves, oh my God, this person must be clever. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against doctors. I mean, many doctors save lives, so this is amazing. It depends what kind of job you do as a doctor or what kind of lawyer you are. And CEOs most likely are clever and smart in some areas to get to that point. But what interests me is what's their humanity and how are they contributing to our society? What's their motivation to choose this profession? How genuine are they? How are they treating their employees or their colleagues? Or they're assholes and only care about saving their ass, even at the expense of others. Who knows? Would they help a stranger on the street who, let's say, struggles with their luggage on the stairs, or they would walk by, or they would pass by indifferently, or most people on their phones? That's one of the first questions I ask myself when I meet someone new, when I'm talking to another person. I think to myself internally, how genuine are they? What's their motivation? What's their drive? What's their intention? And I think it's easy to gauge when you meet with someone one-to-one, but it's much harder on YouTube, let's say. And that's quite frustrating because I think many people can act really well and it's hard to tell what's their real intention. We often confuse intelligence or smartness with wisdom. I'm still in the process of trying to figure out what's the difference, and I can sense it intuitively, but I need to find words to articulate it. But for today's video, I want to use Ian McGilchrist's quote about the right and left hemisphere. By the way, I recommend his book, The Master and His Emissary, because he did studies on the differences between how the left and the right hemisphere function. The right hemisphere helps us understand the world, the left only to manipulate it. When I was traveling in Japan, which was my first country, I stayed a few days in a rural town called Kamikatsu. It's a small town with a zero waste program. That was one of the reasons why I went there. It was like beautiful mountains with stars at night, just really magical place. And in that homestay, there was this 70-year-old man with his sister, and it was a guest house. So I had a privilege and a chance to have a conversation with him. Of course, using Google Translate, and then there was another guest, Aya, a Japanese woman who knew English, so I was lucky to have her to also translate between us. But I asked him questions about life and about his experience. He came across to me as a very kind-hearted, peaceful, and warm person. So I asked him, what does he regret in life and what advice would he give to young people? And his response was, be joyful. He said, I don't have much money, but I look forward to tomorrow. I told him, you're humble in a natural way. He responded, in Japan, people expect respect because of the older age and think they're wiser. But I actually think that I can learn a lot from younger people and from travelers that stay in my house. I said to him, you're very wise, you understand the simplicity of life. He replied, I know, but I can't say this to my fellow Japanese people because they will judge me as arrogant. So he was wise and genuine without any fake modesty that he's not. He knew who he was. And the simplicity that I could sense from him, it was very much embodied despite the language barrier. And it was also visible in action, like he offered me and another guest to drive to rice fields and show us around, and he didn't expect anything in return. He was just happy to help. So it made me feel hopeful and connected. For me, that's humanity. That's what we are here for. That's wisdom, knowing the art of living. That is so simple, but not easy to do. That's why I don't care who you are. I don't care about your titles. What I care about is what's your humanity? What kind of human being are you? And I would even say further is that wisdom doesn't always come with age. I know 5-year-old kids, 15-year-old teenagers who are wiser than a 50-year-old person. And I wonder if this is something innate that some people are born with, or is it something we can learn? I'm not sure about that. It's something to be investigated and explored. I know professors in philosophy or academically trained intellectuals, but then I wonder, aren't they purely intellectualizing? Are they applying the wisdom, the knowledge they learned through these studies? Do they have the practical wisdom that they use in their lives? Are they connected to their hearts? Why our identity, self-worth, and importance is so tied up with what we do, where did we study, or where we come from. Seriously, we got it so upside down. What I can notice is that with the increase of technology, we are losing our wisdom. We are becoming dumber as humans. Our civilization became highly developed in some areas, which is great. But with that, we are losing some basic human qualities and insight. What the fuck? Because on the existential level, no one is more important. Everyone will die, even the most powerful, successful people, right? So who cares? Who cares who you are? You could lose it tomorrow. You could be dead tomorrow. Really? Why we are so attached to our titles and what we do and how VIP we feel. Oh my God. Ooh. So death is a great equalizer, and I think we should be aware of it, think about it every day, about our mortality, because it might help us be more humble and more grounded in reality, is that tomorrow everything might be gone and we might be gone, or people we love. So who cares who you are? Who cares what you do? And what is often true, not always, but often, is that people who have or acquired real wisdom are not popular, are not maybe well known, because they are not craving for power. They're not posting on social media every day to get millions of followers. They don't care. They just enjoy a simple life. And again, our society, I mean, especially the Western society, is so fucked up because it's driven by who shouts the loudest, who claims they're experts. Oh my God. Those who have amazing marketing and PR. I mean, yeah, these people become popular and successful and get money and get power. It's the same with my profession. I'm a humanistic, relational, and integrative psychotherapist. I work with adults, and my special interests are in attachment and trauma, because I think everyone are traumatized. Hello? I think most societies are traumatized, and everyone carries some form of trauma inside them. I have a degree in psychology and psychotherapy, but again, just because I have this title, it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a good therapist and I truly care about my clients. I could be shitty, I could be harmful to my clients. How could you assess that based on my title and degree only? And by the way, it really scares me how many dodgy therapists are out there. Oof. Okay, let's imagine that I'm an ethical therapist and I truly care about my clients. But then the next question would be, what's the quality of my relationships in my personal life, my family members, my friends? Because if I cannot manage healthy relationships in my personal life, then how congruent and authentic my work is, even if I treat my clients well. The example that comes to my mind is Alice Miller. She was a well-respected Polish-Swiss psychoanalyst and philosopher, writing about parental abuse, childhood trauma. But then, after her death, her son came out describing what kind of mother she really was. And there is a book about it and interviews. It's quite shocking. And you know, being a psychotherapist is such a strange and delicate profession, carrying so much responsibility. As a therapist deals with people's heart and soul, especially when clients are the most vulnerable. So it would be very easy to harm. And the question would be how therapists make sure that they do no harm. I don't use AI, but I heard that ChatGPT can be a very good therapist. But is therapy about some technical skills that anyone can learn? I have my personal opinion that only about 1 or 2% of all the therapists in the world are truly amazing, gifted. I would say the majority of them are alright, average, and the rest, I don't know, 5-10% are dodgy and dangerous and should never do this kind of work. I mean, it's not even a criticism. It applies to any profession. Let's say I could say that among pianists, only 1 or 2% are truly geniuses in their craft. Another important question I would have to therapists is how much they truly addressed and healed their own traumas. And again, this comes down to a point of authenticity and truthness. So we are back to the question of what kind of person you are. What are your values, intentions? What do you truly care about? But why therapy? I remember the first psychology book I bought was in Poland when I was 14. It was about perfectionism. I remember feeling so lost and knowing nothing about myself. But I was already on search. I was looking for something, but I didn't know where to go. So I devoted my early 20s, actually my whole 20s, to go to therapy, do lots of research on myself to understand why I have these issues. I preferred doing therapy than some kind of boring university degree. Of course, I didn't know what I want to do in my life, so I'm quite pleased that I didn't go to the uni straight away. I just hated school. Oh my God. I'm quite pleased that I invested time. I invested my early 20s to discover myself, to get to know who is Annie, who is this person, who is this girl. But of course, attending therapy, even with the best therapist, once a week is not enough. There is no some kind of magic bullet that they give you and then you become better just by attending there. Therapy is a tedious, often painful and relentless work on the side of the client. And no one can save us apart from ourselves. Of course, with the help of therapists and other people. I'm not saying we can do it alone. No, we cannot do these things alone. We need help. I was lucky to have and find people that would help me on the way. I spent 15 years doing therapy, different forms of therapy, individual, group, workshops, books, YouTube, whatever was available to me. And yes, there is no shortcuts. I don't believe in shortcuts. These things cannot be healed quickly by having some ayahuasca, spiritual awakening session. No, it doesn't work that way. And it paid off. I became more confident in who I am and who I want to become while still becoming. It's never a finished process. You never stop healing. Ideally, we would have societies and families where we wouldn't need therapy because we would have had good enough childhood and supporting community. So this brings me to my last point, to my mission. I'm a realist, but I'm also an idealist. And my life mission is advocating for children to create emotionally healthier society. To raise children, I mean small adults, who haven't been damaged and polluted yet by the ugly world of big adults. As Frederick Douglass once said, it's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. Meaning, if we meet children's not only physical, but also psychological, mental, emotional needs, then they wouldn't need to spend years, 15 years of therapy like me, trying to fix what was destroyed and broken in them. They would be much more ahead in their lives. It's similar with building a house. If you have strong foundations, they will survive for maybe 100 years, these buildings. But if they have weak foundation, if the quality is bad, then yeah, they're going to collapse one day unexpectedly. It's the same with humans. I mentioned earlier that in my opinion there are maybe 1 or 2% of really gifted therapists, and I think it's similar with parents, or actually worse. Most parents don't really understand and accept their children unconditionally because they don't understand themselves and they are disconnected from their inner child. It's so messed up. Well, if you look at it, in reality, children are slaves of their parents, and it's legal. Can you believe that? Kids are at parents' mercy. They cannot question them, fight back, or escape if parents abuse them or neglect or misbehave. And I'm not only talking about some obvious physical abuse or neglect. Even more so, I'm talking about emotional wounds and deprivation that over years build into bigger injuries, meaning traumas. It could be that your parents or one of your parents is criticizing you, or maybe you get a sense that they are not really interested in who you are. They don't ask you questions. They only expect you to behave a certain way. Or maybe they want you to do great at school. That's kind of a conditional love. If you're doing well, then I love you and you're going to get rewards. Or it might be that your parents are not showing you enough affection. There isn't much talk about emotions, or saying I love you, or cuddling you, or comforting you when you're upset. Maybe they are telling you, oh, don't cry. Oh, honey, there is no reason to be sad. Well, there is. And don't get me even started on sexual abuse. I was working for this charity in the UK. It's called 1 in 4, because 1 in 4 children, based on the data, are sexually abused by the age of 18. And when I was looking at data worldwide, I found that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 7 men were sexually abused as children. So this is serious stuff. Children are stuck as their life is completely dependent on their caregivers. It's like with dogs. If they have a good owner, they're lucky. If the owner is bad and mistreating them, then yeah, they have a shitty life. Parents have all the authority and power over children. Power is great if it's used to empower and serve others, but it's detrimental when it's abused. Every child from the moment of birth deserves parents who not only keep them alive by meeting their physical needs, but children even more so deserve generous emotional nourishment and attunement. Raising children, our next generation, is the most important and yet the most difficult task to do. So I get so livid when I see over and over again how most parents don't take it seriously and they are not equipped to do it well, to do it properly. Oh my God, they have no idea how much pain and suffering they are causing their innocent kids. I just cannot tolerate that. It makes me so sad. It really hurts me. There is no doubt that our early experiences shape and affect our adulthood. I see it on a daily basis with my clients. It's quite simple. Injured parents with unresolved traumas can only produce injured and traumatized kids, where self-aware and fulfilled parents will raise confident kids.
They fuck you up, your mom and dad. They may not mean to, but they do. They fill you with the faults they had and add some extra just for you.
Yes, most of the time they don't mean it, but as the Latin expression says, being unaware of the law doesn't excuse the person from violating it. Also, most parents refuse to acknowledge their mistakes when adult kids confront them. So it's very hard for me to justify someone who claims not guilty. And I often hear this argument from both parents and children. Oh, but we love you. Or, oh, my parents love me. I know they love me. That's not enough. Do parents love you because of them, for themselves? Or they love you for who you are? And are they willing to get down, look at this little human being, and understand, what does it need from me to flourish, to grow like a plant? So these are transgenerational traumas passed on to us from parents, grandparents, etc., etc. Because our culture, our systems, our educational system is messed up and dysfunctional, so naturally it will affect parents and children. Until someone says, that's it, I need to stop this cycle, I need to work on myself, heal my traumas, and save our future generations. We spend so much time to learn the instruction manual for our phones, our cars, I don't know, washing machine, whatever you call it, anything external. But what about this system? What about the instruction manual of our bodies, of ourselves? Do we invest enough time to know how this system works, to get to know ourselves, to know our needs? No? Really? Ever? Okay, so how to stop this cycle? What's the antidote? I think the antidote is that we first need to heal and educate adults. Everyone. Every adult, especially the ones who want to have kids. You might be wondering, but who are you to talk about raising kids? What do you know about good or bad childhood or parenting? Well, I've experienced both. I've experienced a lot of trauma from my parents, my culture, the educational system. I just hated it. But also I know what it feels like to have an amazing parent because my mom became that person. I want to do a separate interview with my mom and share more about her because she's my superstar, she's my best friend, and I think she's one of the main reasons that I was able to recover and heal my traumas. And she's my advocate. Like, I have her support unconditionally, and I know she's there all the time if I need her. So I know what it feels like, and it's a wonderful feeling. So I'm very, very lucky to have her. So my vision and model to create healthier society is to address 3 areas. First one is the family. That's what I'm dealing with as a therapist, to heal adults, to help parents raise healthier children after they heal themselves and educate themselves. The second area is the educational system, how to stop brainwashing children and actually teach them instead useful skills like critical thinking, emotional intelligence, etc. And the third aspect area is the culture that I mentioned before, what kind of environment and atmosphere we have and beliefs in our culture that affect individuals. It's about a fundamental societal change. I'm yearning to create a soulful, authentic, and meaningful world, communities where people are connected to themselves and connected with each other. Because we are more than capable of doing so, and we should accept nothing less than that.